episode 43 of the Beyond the Snap podcast. We know we were gone again. Kirtan left to Montana, and it is all his fault. I accept zero responsibility for this delay. But to make it up to you, we have some news. Kirtan, would you tell the good people what it is?
From now until kickoff, when we see Kansas State, I believe, take on Iowa State, don't quote me on that, in Ireland, we are going to be posting every other day. We're talking, 7 days? We're talking 4 days a week we will be posting on average. And they will all be here on live, and we will go until kickoff. Then we'll get back into our normal schedule. But this way we can cover everything. Our hot takes, our predictions for each individual conference. We can get into player breakdown, team breakdown, and who we see winning the national championship at the end of the year. So to kick it off, we're going to start with the AP poll and ESPN poll that was released just this week. Kieran, what do we see and what is interesting to us?
So I think what's really interesting is if you look across the board, Texas is number one, which maybe that doesn't sound that strange to some people out there, but for me, for it to be in a coaches poll and in the CBS poll and in ESPN's poll, it seems like there's a lot, frankly, maybe I'm missing, right? I understand that Texas is returning a lot of talent, but for me, I think, we as a team that we as a media are way too high on Texas personally, because for me, Arch Manning is still untested, right? I know he's been hyped literally to the moon and back at this point, but I don't really know how he's going to react, especially week one going into the shoe. And I get that this is just a straight ranking of teams, but I would also point out that the odds makers in Vegas who have money on the line, right? Not just a job or not just agreeing with their peers. They have money on the line that they get this line as close to possible. Ohio State is favored by almost a touchdown, 4.5 points. So essentially, you have to think about that bet is if Ohio State wins by a touchdown or a field goal is what you're taking, right? That's the bet you're making at this moment right now. And that's saying that best case scenario that Vegas sees and in all likelihood is that Ohio State wins by a field goal. That's the best case scenario for Texas. And I know it's in their building, but you look at a Texas team that walked into what was the formal national championship team last year and beat the crap out of Michigan in week 2, right? And what I have issues with is, for me, a lot of the star power for Texas is gone. You've lost big pieces along the offensive line, none bigger than Kelvin Banks. And you've also lost your wide receiver core in that group. You've lost your starting quarterback. And as much as people were ready to move on from Quinn, and I think are ready to move on from Quinn, he was, you know what you were going to get, right? It wasn't great, it wasn't perfect, but he was able to lead the team and get results. So for me, the concerns lie almost everywhere. You're returning a lot of good pieces on defense, especially on the edge, and I think Texas is probably the best edge rushing team in the country. That's great, but you look at what you return linebackers, and that's amazing. But you lose a lot at defensive tackle because those players have moved on, and you're starting to see that as players kind of Texas is starting to feel the effects of its success, right? You get so many players drafted that you're starting to be a little bit thinner. Some players move on getting to not play because of getting to not play, and that's great, right? It showcases that you have enough depth to sit really good players, but you also then start losing those players. So for me, I think it's going to be hard to maintain Texas being in the Final Four, so to call it, for a third straight year. I think they can do it, but I wouldn't be favoring them heading into the season. I'll talk about which team I think is the best and the most geared up for a great run this year later, but that's kind of my top of the line thoughts. I personally think Texas is too high. I'd be more comfortable with a third, fourth, fifth ranking.
Yeah. And I totally agree with Kieran. The way I see this playing out is if we just take a look at essentially honestly, the top 10 teams, the entire top 10, if we truly look at the individual teams, I believe only Clemson, Penn State, and you could say Georgia, but you can't really say Georgia because they had Carson Beck, are bringing back their quarterback. Everybody else has lost their key captain on offense. Texas replaced with Arch Manning. Ohio State replaced Will Howard with Julian Sayin. Georgia replaced Carson Beck with Gunnar Stockton. Notre Dame, I don't know his name right now, but Riley Leonard was replaced. Riley Leonard got drafted. Clemson luckily will be bringing back Kay Klubnik. Oregon replaces Dylan Gabriel with Dante Moore. Alabama is going to have to replace Kalen DeBoer with Tyler, and Tyler
Holy,
Tyler
whoa, whoa,
Tyson.
whoa, whoa, whoa. No. Kalen DeBoer was the quarterback for
Oh
Alabama last year?
God, what's his name? Jalen Milrow.
There you go.
Flute.
We're a little rusty. We'll get
He
better, I
might even be
promise.
replaced at the end of the season. Who knows if he loses to Vandy again? But anyways, LSU, they're keeping Garrett Nussmeier, and Miami, they're bringing in for $10 million Carson Beck. Needless to say, I don't think any of the teams that are bringing, I think a quarterback, as much as we like to say, like, oh my God, quarterback might be overhyped. Like, come on, there's so many people playing in the field. Your offensive line could be deemed almost as important as your quarterback. But if you really break it down to the nitty gritty, you need a solid quarterback that actually understands everything. And you can make the case. Arch Manning, preview to a future segment we're going to have on this episode, Arch Manning just came in with the highest Heisman odds. Is that a little inflated because of his name and because of what he did against UTSA? Yes. But is that how the world works? Yeah, absolutely. But the way I look at it is if you are a team that lost so many pieces, Texas lost Quinn Ewers, lost Kelvin Banks, lost Andrew Makuba, literally lost so many pieces to the draft. I believe they had one of the highest number of people gone. Great for them. They're going to be starting people that are true freshmen that haven't seen the field yet. They're still going to get their legs. Do they still have their core in Anthony Hill? Do they still have wide receivers that are coming back? Do they still have Ryan Wingo? Do they still have their running backs and CJ Baxter being fully healthy? Yes. Contravion Wisner? Yes. But they're missing a lot of key players. Same thing with Ohio State. They lost Will Howard. They lost JT. They're losing all these good players, and they're going to have to bring in fresh legs. Are those fresh legs still considered five-star talents? Absolute, like gladiators. Yes, they are compared to your smaller teams like your UT San Antonios, like your UL at Monroe's, but they don't have experience. So I don't think you can put a team that high. In my opinion, out of this entire top 10, I think Clemson should actually jump a lot. Based off what we've been seeing in spring practice, Clemson should be your number one or number two team. And I think number one arguably should be Penn State. Drew Aller is returning. You have James Franklin trying to get over the hump. Will he ever do so? I don't think so. But does he deserve to be the number one team? Yes, because he still retained a lot of talent. So in my head, the way I think about this is that you need to shift everybody that is either losing a quarterback and does not have all the pieces just down one level. I think UGA needs to move down one level. And if we look at the poll, you can see that it was actually kind of spread out. Texas only received 28 votes for number one. You had Ohio State get 20, Penn State 14, Georgia 3, Clemson 2. And so it's actually well spread out amongst the top competing teams, like amongst the top six. So you can make an argument for any of them, but I personally think it should be Penn State or Clemson 1 and 2, and then everybody else gets shifted down. Karen, what do you think?
Yeah, so Penn State is also my number one. I will admit the logic there is sound, but also, aside from the logic, let Penn State win something. Like the poor Nittany Lions, they've been struggling for so long, and I know the hope will probably kill them if they were ranked number one, but honestly, I don't care. I think you could rank them number one. I don't really see the problem with it. I think they deserve it. I think they have the most talent coming back. And the smart money is not on Penn State, but that's just because the smart money is never on Penn State with James Franklin there. All due respect, sir. But all of the hype around these teams with unproven talent, yes, they will replace, yes, they will be good, but you have to think about this as a preseason ranking. This is if all the teams played week 1, right? Who is the best? That's what essentially what you're saying, right? And that is not what a team like Texas, what a team like Georgia is going to look like, right? To me, everybody says that week 1 is the biggest game of the season, Texas Ohio State. I don't know if y'all are living in the same 12-team playoff world that we're living in, but that game does not matter. I mean, maybe to the teams it does. Maybe for confidence later in the playoff, it doesn't really matter. But I don't see it mattering. It's not a conference game. You can get an automatic bid by winning your conference. You need tune-up games, admittedly, because it's a new team. You're both bringing in large amounts of new players, especially on offense on both sides. And I don't see how you can expect that to be the best football. It will not. Texas will get better as the season goes on. Ohio State will get better as the season goes on and as those players gain experience. Now, if that game happened in week 13, right before they go to Michigan and A&M respectfully, I really think that would be a much better test. But it's not. So for me, people to say that, these teams should rank number 1, we're expecting to play great football out the gate, I don't think that's going to happen. And that's why I think Penn State should be number 1. LSU should be in the mix, and Clemson should be right there as well, because I think they're returning the most talent. And honestly, if I was looking at a long shot, long range picture national championship favorite, I would put the money there instead of on a team like Texas, where it's a little bit unproven and a couple of bad players at offensive line, some bad injuries, and Texas's season is derailed, right? Because
Absolutely.
you're missing Kelvin Banks, you're missing some of those guys, and without that bruising physicality that we saw in some games last year, I don't think Texas is going to be able to win as well. I don't think Ohio State is going to be able to win as well without key playmakers, especially at running back, right? And at quarterback. Because, yes, I know Jeremiah Smith is amazing, but there's not a jugs machine out here throwing him the ball. There has to be a human being throwing him the ball, right? And if that protection's not there, and if they're not getting him the ball in a somewhat catchable radius. I know the radius is large for Jeremiah Smith, but it's not that they can throw it to section 302 on the third deck and he'll still catch it, right? So I think it's really important that the teams, they get this nailed down early, and they'll have high quality physical competition week 1, but I don't think it's going to be the best football we'll see. So I think it's really silly to rank them that high. And then looking kind of down the chart, I see teams with a lot of potential. You look at a team like South Carolina, returning their quarterback. They've got good talent along the lines of scrimmage because they're a well-built LCC team. They have a good roster, and I think they're ready to go. You look at a team like Florida. You look at a team even like Texas A&M. They are well-built teams. They have those tune-up games week 1. Florida plays Long Island University. That is an FCS team. That is literally, that's like if Modern Day played a middle school, right? It's not the same level of football. So they get these tune-up games. South Carolina plays Virginia Tech. Not as much of a tune-up game, but certainly not a hard game. And Texas A&M plays UTSA. So for me, I think that's a little bit more advantageous. I would rather want to weight those games towards a little later in the season and hope and understand that your team's going to get better and it's going to gel. And especially those are more experienced teams. So honestly, I think they should be a little bit higher looking at overall the rankings.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the same thing, and in the sense that, not to totally copy Kieran, but always thought it was a hot take. Like, these first couple week games, they truly don't matter because a team hasn't built their identity. And once you find your identity later on in the season, it matters more. And the reason, and I guess the literal best way of explaining this is Notre Dame, your runners up in the national championship game, in week 2, lost to Northern Illinois University, 16-14. I don't think people remember that because of the fact that Notre Dame then went on to do great things. But they lost game number 2 to an I don't know if they're FCS, but still, to a
FBS,
really,
but barely.
barely. But again, that's just furthering my point. They weren't even in the same league. That is essentially modern day playing middle school, and the middle school team somehow beats them. Just take that into perspective. But then again, you have like games that are also like grudge matches. So we're talking about the South Carolina game. South Carolina, they're going to be playing Virginia Tech. Now, I don't know if people know the lore behind it. The head coach of South Carolina, his father is actually a legacy and in the College Football Hall of Fame head coach of the Hokies. And I don't remember his name on top of my head. I was just reading about this in the because there's a show on Netflix that covers it. I bet you, Kieran. I know that his dad's name is Franklin something. I want that to
I
know.
think it's Beamer is their last
Yeah,
name.
Franklin Beamer, and then his son is the head coach of
Shane.
South Carolina, Shane Beamer. There you go. But I feel like that's going to be a good game to watch because there is like a back line behind it, and I think Shane Beamer just going to want to win. But yeah, a lot of these games that you should play in the first half season, especially me personally, I would be scheduling games that are simple. Like let's play Nevada, kind of how Penn State's going to play, and let's not play anybody big. Oregon is playing Montana State University. Like all these, like you want to find your identity early in the season, and you don't want to take on this competition because yes, it'll be valued later on. But personally, I don't think college football, the actual pickers of the like the final 12, I don't think they take into perspective these games until you get later into the season. You build your schedule. Like LSU will play Clemson. Will that be absolutely entertaining? Absolutely. But what's really the emphasis? LSU is going to be bringing back. I guess it is Garrett Nussmeier versus Cade Klubnik, the Heisman's going at it, the Heisman watch players. But besides that, what does it really tell you? It's not going to tell you anything. It's going to tell you, well, this is our first game in the season. We clearly didn't practice this more, and then later on, if they played, it'll matter something. LSU, Alabama later on, and so I think there's just not the implication that there needs to be. I don't think there's a need to play in these hard games, but I guess it will be good to build our bases. We'll know now when Notre Dame plays Miami, will the number 10 team or will the number 8 team or whatever, like where do they belong? Where does it actually go? Does Notre Dame belong at number 5? Does Miami belong at 10? Well, when they play, we'll figure it out. I think that though we need to keep an eye out on these sleeper teams. Texas Tech. I know they might be known as the like you don't go to Texas Tech unless you want to go live like next to like wheelbarrows and stuff in Lubbock. But Texas Tech has spent the second most amount of money in NIL. Texas Longhorns has spent the number one. Texas Tech has spent the second most. Keep that in mind. Texas A&M were runners up. Were runners up to the national championship game. Michigan is building culture. SMU. Do I believe that they had a little bit of a fluke season? Yes. Will I think Clemson dominate this year? Yes. But SMU still building that culture. Iowa State building the culture. Ole Miss, Indiana, all these teams, they're building something real. And I think people just need to keep that in mind. But anyways, that's our predictions and that's our reactions to top 25. Do we expect major changes to happen? Of course. Like everybody, you always want to see teams rise and fall. But I think as an early prediction, maybe I think we have a consensus on the fact that if you're bringing back and retaining talent, you belong a little bit higher on the list than teams that are having to start brand new quarterbacks and bring in new players on offense and defense. I think that's a consensus belonging both of us. But moving on, we have our prediction of out of these teams that we just saw in the rankings, Kieran, how many do you really believe are going to win the national championship or have a shot at it?
So I'm going to make the argument for 12 distinct teams that have a chance at making the national championship. So those teams are as follows: the top 9 in the CBS poll rankings. This was just the poll I picked out of. It doesn't matter. Those teams are. This is in numerical order. I'm not saying this is the order I expect them to win the national championship in. Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama, and LSU. Now, I leave out Miami and Arizona State, and then I include Florida, might be controversial. I include Texas A&M, and I include South Carolina. Now, some of those seem strange. So I'm going to start with the team that is consensus ranked the lowest, Texas A&M, and explain to you why they can win the national championship. So They have incredible talent at running back. They're bringing back a lot of the guys they had last year that were able to wear on teams and really make a difference in the run game. Speaking of making a difference in the run game, Marcel Reed. He had a great season last year and really shined on the ground, but he also has been developing through the air. So you're bringing back, you lose some key receivers, but you're bringing back your quarterback. You're bringing back a solid offensive line. You're also bringing back a really great defense. So to dig into it, I think they have the potential to do it. Obviously, this would require a crazy run, right? Starting where they are, and they're not going to be favored in the games they need to win to get to the national championship. But I think these are all teams where A&M, South Carolina, and Florida, where the path looks like this. They are the next best in the SEC to Texas, Georgia, and LSU, right? They sneak in as that fourth team, play a group of 5 team in the first playoff game or some other entertaining opponent, and then are able to just go on a run. They just put their head down and as a team play their best football in the playoff and are able to maybe get some balls to bounce their way, some lucky breaks, and win the national championship. Now, I think that's a different class of team from the top 9. For me, all of those 9 teams have the ability to do it. At Oregon, it would require that a lot of young players grow up real fast. Much the same situation at Alabama and even to some degree at Georgia and Notre Dame. Notre Dame does notably return Jeremiah Love, one of arguably the best running backs that is returning, and even the best player that's returning. Then you have teams where they have the power, the sheer star power to do it that was proven last year. It's just if they can maintain. For me, those teams, LSU, I think they have the people and the personnel to do it. I think Clemson has the personnel to do it. Already in the building. We don't need to have any breakout seasons. I think Ohio State has the personnel to do it. I think Texas has the personnel to do it. And I think Penn State has the personnel to do it. Obviously, this requires them to be playing their best football around playoff time, but I could see all of these teams getting hot, playing some great games, and winning the national championship. How about you, Kirtan?
Yeah. And so the way I look at this is I only see really 8 teams. Now, I guess this is me being very I don't know the proper terminology for that. I am going to say that I'm not going to be bold. I am only going to take a certain amount of teams from, honestly, the top 18. The only reason I'm including number 18 is because it's literally the team. So I think Texas has a fair shot. Texas has proven that they are building a program to last. They're already ranked number 1. They have this special sauce. They have everything they need to go their way. So they can do it. They have the coaching and everything. Ohio State, they proved last year that NIL talks. If you bring in the most amount of people, you'll win. And, I mean, they still have it. They have both Coach Day. They have everybody they need. Jeremiah Smith, who I would argue might be on the same level as Jeremiah Love as the best player in college football. But, again, that's up for discussion. Anyways, Penn State, that's the one I'm going to not include. And no offense to Penn State. I think Penn State can make a far run. I think they'll make it regardless because of the fact that they are in the Big Ten. I think that they're a top 3-4 team. It depends on how Michigan does, but in my scenario, I'm going to say that they do better than Michigan. But I don't think they have the ability to beat Ohio State and Texas. I think it's the typical James Franklin day. You go against one of these top-tier teams, and you just cannot rally your troops to win. No offense, Penn State, even though I believe they should be ranked number 1 or 2 right now. Kind of ironic. Georgia, I think Georgia has a winning culture. They can definitely do it. Notre Dame, I do not believe so. I think what Notre Dame had last year was special. Jeremiah Love, I think Riley Leonard, everything was going their way and everything was just in a special little haze. But I think they lost a lot of pieces that they're not going to be able to replicate. And for those reasons, I don't believe they'll make it. Clemson might be my dark horse to win the entire national championship. I think they're the most suited. Again, I talked about it previously, but I think spring training and everything we've seen in the development that Coach Dabo has been talking about, I think they're really poised to win it all. I think they're almost a lock for ACC. Now, don't quote me on that right now, but I do truly believe that. Oregon, I do not. Oregon had a really good year last year. They were ranked number one for a long period of time. They beat Ohio State in the regular season. But can they do it on the big screen? Can they do it when the lights are on them, when it is really matters? No, they got absolutely obliterated by Ohio State. They just don't have the experience yet. They'll build it over time, but you're bringing in Dante Moore with no experience. Like, at least what I can say about Texas is Arch Manning, he got in some big games. He scored the first touchdown against A&M. He got in a little bit in Ohio State. Like, he played Georgia whenever Quinn Ewers wasn't doing his best. Like, he has experience, so that's why I believe in him. Alabama, I think Alabama just has a winning culture, though they did struggle last year against teams like Vanderbilt, against teams like, I don't know why it's not popping in my head, against, I believe, their last time I think they played USC in one of the bowl games, and they lost their bowl game. I know that for sure. They lost to Oklahoma, who I believe is also being snubbed off this list. But I don't. I believe that they just have a winning culture and they can always get back to it. LSU, I believe, can win it. Miami, I do not, because I don't think Miami has the pieces yet. You can buy people for $10 million, doesn't mean they're going to come and automatically win for you. And I don't think Carson Beck was really that great of a quarterback. No offense, Carson Beck. And then I believe Ole Miss can get it done. Ole Miss number 15 can get it done. I think Ole Miss, because of Lane Kiffin, about just how he runs his program, they can definitely get it done. They gave hard times to a lot of these great teams. They can do it. Tennessee, I feel like, is being very slept on. Though Nico Yamaliava has departed, and we'll talk about that later, they're still a great program, and they are strict and honorable with their ethics. They aren't going to pay you an arm and a leg, but they will bring you up and they will build you to their standard. And the Tennessee Volunteer standard is a great standard. And then, yes, I do believe Florida. Kieran touched on it a little bit. I think that DJ Lagway had a breakout season last year. Even with the injury of Graham Mertz, I think he had a breakout season. I think that regardless of their schedule, they can make it just due to the fact that if they win one of the big four games in the no-win November, as we've deemed it, they can be on a path for success. And I think that they just have the pieces. And then besides that, I don't know how many I've listed. But out of the rest, honestly, the only one I can see is South Carolina. And South Carolina, I think Shane Beamer is just a great guy. He's one of my favorite young coaches going into it. I really believe in him, and I really believe in. I can't say it yet, but just so you know, I mentioned the segment later, but just so you know, just one of the players on their team, I really believe in him. But anyways, that's all I have for my top 8. I believe I said top 8 or 9 teams that are going to make the playoffs. Is it egregious to win the championship? I'm all over the place, guys. To win the championship, I'm all over the place. But I think these are the only teams that have a real shot. Everybody else, I feel like we're going to fall into the same thing. Penn State's going to fall back into their ways. Notre Dame, can they climb the mountain? I hope you can prove me wrong, because I really would love to see a Notre Dame rise to fame again. Anyways, that's all I have for this segment. Moving on, Kieran, we just talked about him. I just mentioned his team, the Volunteers. What do we think about NIL, the Nico Yamaliava situation, and the corruption that's happening with these players?
So,
Alrighty then.
oh, I'm back. My bad.
Okay, there we go.
Small apologies there. Anyway, it's so important. Let's get back to the football. So, yeah, I think for a lot of reasons, it really reflects badly on college football. And
You're muted.
ultimately, sorry, we're having crazy microphone issues over here. Ultimately, it reflects badly not just on Iamale Ava himself, but on kind of the whole atmosphere, right? It has, I hesitate to say this because it's disappointing to me personally, but it's hard to argue that accepting the service academies, so that's Navy, Army, and Air Force, college football is a professional sport. Now, that's not to say it's that everybody gets paid the same or that everybody there's minimum salaries or player negotiations or that kind of thing, right? That is simply to say that it looks a suspicious amount like football club structures, and I mean British football, so soccer here, club structures abroad, right? You look at specifically Great Britain, right? This is, I don't know soccer that well, so I will get this wrong, but I'm going to provide a bit of an analogy. You have the champion, you have the Premier League, which is kind of like the Power Four. Most players are getting some form of NIL. If not, they're getting extensively compensated with cars and watches and lots of other things I can't mention on this podcast probably, and whatever else they can rustle up, right? Then you have what would be in Britain the championship, that is the second tier, right? That's the group of five. They're still kind of mixing it up. Some big names are going to get NIL deals and they're going to get paid really well. Some smaller names may not get paid hardly at all, right? And then you have kind of the feeder teams below that, all the way down to D3, which is kind of like a club, right? It's almost like club football. Not exactly. I know there are a bunch of D3 football coaches up in arms right now, but they're actually trying to get their rosters like sprung out of jail. They do have that in common with Georgia, but not much else, unfortunately. So you've got this kind of tiered structure, right? And there's a whole lot of stratification that's happening that for me results in making the sport a whole lot less fun. Because sure, I am glad that I am blessed as a Texas fan to have the well-resourced individuals that donate to the Texas Longhorns football team and have allowed us to spend like $45 million on a roster, right? But counterpoint, that's like what professional soccer teams abroad are spending, right? That's what professional rugby teams are spending on their whole team, right? And this is a college team. It's not a professional team. Yes, I know the NFL spends more on their salaries, but that's because the NFL has more money to spend on salaries. But Texas, when you're spending 40, 50, 60 million dollars on a salary for a year, right? For your players. And I get that some of it's through NIL deals and some of it's through the cooperative, and it's all very under the table and mildly to extraneously confusing. But you are spending a professional amount of money on a roster, right? Like, you could go out and pay pretty much every player in the WNBA for $50 million. I am fairly sure, right? So you're expending this massive amount of money for a college roster, and hopefully it'll bring them a national championship, and that's great. But Ohio State did it last year, and if Texas won the national championship this year, Texas did it this year, and then at this point, it's almost follow the money. And then you're asking yourself, was Michigan the last team to win a national championship without paying for it? And did they cheat to do it? So, again, not the greatest of looks for those of us that want college football to remain an amateur sport. And I really think that long term, it's not sustainable, and I'm sure it'll bubble over at some point. But I kind of worry that the cat is out of the bag, right? And if the 5 stars the year before are getting to drive around in Lamborghinis and got paid millions of dollars, and then the next year you're getting a stipend to go to Chick-fil-A and buy some meals, you're not exactly going to be super happy with that arrangement if you're the top of the line football recruits, right? And the other thing is what this is doing to recruiting is because coaches are now spending money on bringing in players, it creates this whole different ecosystem where players have to almost like pay to get seen. And this has kind of been the case for a while, right? But it benefits you, whether or not you were actually as good as them or not, to train with the same coach that coaches an NFL player, right? Or with a coach that coaches a lot of college players, right? And you're paying them money to train with them. And yes, you get better as a football player, but you also get to be featured in the background of that workout photo with Bijan Robinson, right? And that does, I think, leaps and bounds for recruiting and getting you seen, right? And then there's, you're paying for things like coaches and recruiting services to talk about you constantly, right? In an effort to get more coaches to see you. And you're paying for camps and for travel and to go get in front of these coaches and to get professional training and nutrition and all of that from such a young age that it's almost creating kind of what we see in other sports, namely F1, right? Where I don't know how many of you are familiar with motor racing, but I think we can all agree that cars are expensive, right? And a lot of times you're buying your own car, you're paying your own mechanics, you're doing that kind of thing to pave the way for you as a driver, right? And it's football is not as extreme by far as that yet, but it's getting there. Where if you want to be picked up into the higher leagues of Division 1 football, it's not that you have to be good at football, it's that you have to be good at football and better on an order of magnitude at promoting yourself. So I think that's a big change that we're saying. I know that was a long rant from Nico Yamalieva, and no one is listening anymore. But Kirtan, please tell me you understand.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think it's now turning into a popularity contest, and I'll keep this concise. I feel like it's my end prediction is going to be that one day we're going to see a world where it's just going to be one conference, and it's going to be called the National College Conference. And in this conference, all we're going to see is just one entire conference with every single team in it, sharing equity, finding a way to make it fair for all teams. But it's going to become a pro sport. This is now just a semi-pro sport. It is no longer an amateur. Oh, you go to college to get drafted. No, you make more. If you're Arch Manning, you're making more than you will as a rookie in the NFL. Keep that in mind. So I think NIL is just going to end up corrupting in the sense that the deeper pockets will always win. And it is a sad thing to say, but it's just how the world works. And it's how the cookie crumbles, you could say. The team that can afford it will always win. That's why you see people that are in races. Take a race analogy, or take a Premier League analogy. Or Man City / Real Madrid, they both of the teams are funded by a bunch of these Saudi oil companies. How do they have $1 trillion to spend? Because they have so much funding. You take a team like Preston Hollow or one of those small teams, Wrexham AFC by Ryan Reynolds. They're not receiving that big of funding. Sure, Ryan Reynolds has popularity, and sure, that's probably why they just got promoted twice, and they may be able to do it a third time. But besides that, it's just if you are a basic team trying to go on your old ways of saying, hey, we make talent and then we send them off, we send you to the NFL, it's not going to work. Nico Yamaliava, the reason I mentioned him is because I think we saw a really sad thing. I think what happened is that Nico Yamaliava said, hey, I think I'm a premier quarterback in the NCAA. I am probably the top 3 quarterback in the SEC in general last year. And I think in his head, he said, why is it that Carson Beck, somebody that was below me in the sense of ability, why is it that he was theoretically below me? And why does he just get paid $10 million or some undisclosed amount that we can only assume is more than his NIL value? Why did he switch to Miami and get paid that much? And why am I staying with the Tennessee Volunteers and only making $1 million? That doesn't make sense. So he went to go ask Tennessee, hey, I want more money. This is not fair. I am one of the premier quarterbacks. Why do I get paid? And they stuck to their guns and they said, look, we will not pay you any more money than we already did, but we will develop you. We will put you as a first-round pick. And for him, that wasn't good enough. For him, he said, I got to get rich quick. And all due respect, we don't know what he's going through. We don't know what his whole financial situation is. That if he needs the money, he needs the money. But that's why we saw him jump ship to UCLA. And it's little things like that is why I think NIL is going to be it's just going to end up charging the league. And so, yeah, my bold prediction, you could say, or my future is I see a world where there are no more conferences. We lose the power of the Big 12. We lose the feeling of being part of the SEC. And we all go to this one collective group of just the NCAA where we're playing semi-pro leagues. And some people, yeah, they're going to maybe stay forever. They might say, maybe there isn't 4-year limit. Maybe they're just playing for this team forever because we already see you have a 7-year starter, you have 6-year starters. You can play for as long as you damn well please at some point. Look at Diego Pavia. And so you just take these into account. I think NIL is going to really hurt in the sense that it's going to pull everybody into this one conference, and whoever has the deep pocket is going to win. It's going to be kind of like how Kieran said, the Premier League, the Champions League, all the leagues in Europe. But anyways, going into our last segment for this day, because I can't say this week anymore because we're going every single day or every other day, we have the Heisman hot take. And I have deemed myself going first just in case Kieran decides to steal this player, and that way I can say it first and pretend like he copied me. I believe, and I've already said his team, that Coach Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks, though they might not win the championship, they do have the best player in the nation. Their quarterback, Lenore Sellers, had a absolute breakout towards the end at the second half of the season last year, and I do not see it stopping. He put on a masterclass against teams like Florida. He put on a masterclass against teams like Kentucky. Put on a masterclass against Texas A&M when they were poised to do so well. Lenore Sellers will be your 2025-2026 Heisman Trophy winner. Yeah, Kieran, what's your question?
If this prediction doesn't come true, can you wear the sports glasses to school? Or, even just out in the public square?
Absolutely. I will wear it. I will wear his specs. I will wear the
got you.
goggles.
All right.
I will wear the goggles. I will wear it to a podcast episode. And yes, if it happens to be during school, I will wear it to practice and everything.
I'm going to give y'all an advanced theory as to why the Heisman odds makers are wrong, and you would be silly not to spend all of your hard-earned money, this is not legal advice, on betting on one Jeremiah Smith to win the Heisman. Last year, I picked a Buckeye to win the Heisman. It was Caleb Downs. He decided to have a not-so-great season and not win the Heisman because Ashton Genty? I'm not sure. But this year, I have a new improved Ohio State, not a quarterback procedure. I'm not exactly sure, but he's going to win the Heisman, and I'll tell you how. Okay, what does Ohio State have that they didn't have last year?
A quarterback.
I'll answer that for you. A new quarterback. Exactly. And I don't know if you've noticed, but me and Kirtan, we've spent some time around some new quarterbacks. And when their process gets hurried, shall we say, due to usually a very large human being trying to hit them, they tend to go to the person that they feel the safest with, the receiver that they love the most and cherish the most and are buddies with the most. And really, honestly, they probably share an apartment. They might be moving in together after college, but you don't talk about that. So honestly, I think that having the new quarterback and having this amazing brotherhood between quarterback and receiver will result in a ridiculous number of targets turned into a ridiculous number of yards. And honestly, right, if I was Will Howard, oh my Lord, this is awful. If I was Will Howard, I did it again. If I was Julian Sand, woohoo, we have a bad case of 2024 brain. If I was Julian Sand, I would want Jeremiah Smith to just be on speed dial. Just every single play, check down to Jeremiah Smith. Throw the long ball to Jeremiah Smith. Hit him on the slant. It doesn't matter if he's triple covered. He's still going to hit him, right? And that's the kind of thing you see in these new quarterbacks. And I think that really, really, really will be advantageous for Jeremiah Smith's Heisman campaign. And that's why I think he's going to win the Heisman. That was, in fact, the most unhinged rant I think I've ever given on a podcast. So I appreciate that. And yeah.
Well, I will say this. The one reason I wasn't going to pick Jeremiah Smith, I was actually thinking about it, is because of what you said at the very end. I think he is going to be blanket coveraged every single play. he is going to get the Megatron treatment. They will specifically say, do you see Jeremiah Smith, number 4, out there? Do not let that boy catch a football pass, because when he catches it, he's scoring a touchdown. Do not let him get off the pass. Julian Saint, yeah, he will feed him. But then again, make the same case for Ryan Wingo. Arch Manning, he's going to feed him. Make the same case for, I don't know who else, any other team. That's what I'm saying. So
why did you have to crack my infallible case of friendship and love? That was all it's about. They're friends. They're going to elevate to the next level together. They're going to be the best of friends. They're going to be, the godfathers to each other's children. The guy you call up to, I don't know, have a beer with after work. Is that what?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, is that what NFL players do? The guy that you're just the best of friends. And, I really hope that you understand that this is based on friendship and love, Kirtan. Friendship and love, and you're killing it. You're killing it.
I'm just saying, I think that Lenore Seller, I think friendship and love can get so far, but scrambling also gets you pretty far. If you can throw the ball and you can scramble it, you're a Swiss Army knife. That's why I think Marcel Reed might be a dark horse. We don't know. But yes, you can have friendship with Jeremiah Smith. You can have Julian Saint. They can be buddy-buddy. For all we know, they might share each other's pencil cases, and they might go to every class together. But when you have every single person on Texas's defense, when you have Michael Taft saying, I think I'm going to cover number 4 just a little bit closer. And even though Michael Taft may get burned and might absolutely get smoked in 2 seconds, they're still going to put the emphasis on it. And Steve Sarkisian is going to be yelling at the sideline, why is he not covered? So Xavier Filasami, he is going to be on him all day, all night. And I think it's just one of those cases. So just so everybody knows, we actually picked the 4th and 5th predicted Heisman candidates, or the best odds for. It went Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, Jeremiah Smith, and Lenore Sellers. So just take that in mind. We both believe that there will be, at least one of us believes that there's not going to be a quarterback. I think that was also my point. I think they did Travis Hunter last year. They're not going to go back to a skill player. We just throw you a bone, We'll pick quarterback, running back, Charles Woodson. We'll throw random people in there. We'll give you Devontae Smith. We'll give you Travis Hunter. But now we're back on our quarterback list. So, yes, give me Lenore Sellers or give me a quarterback. That is my prediction.
Is that your prediction? All right.
Quarterback award.
With that prediction, I think it's time to end it because, friendship and love can only get you so far. And ours has lasted 47 minutes.
Yeah.
And almost 48 minutes. So thank y'all for watching. And we really appreciate it. We will be back. And, we might be the worst football podcast on the air now, but you see where we will be in 6 weeks, and it will astound you.
Oh, yeah. Just take a look at our previous podcast episodes. Not going to say anything, but we had some pretty good predictions coming out. So keep that in mind.
Did we ever check back on those predictions? Or no?
We did not, but that is what I will be doing all day tomorrow.
Do that. Yeah. Okay,
alrighty.
Well,
with that being said, this has been Kieran and Kirtan, and we'll see you in 2 days. Peace.
Yes.